Into the channel. Hopefully this will be the first of many more videos to come. I did a ton of research out there. There really wasn't a lot of videos on the teardrop specifically. So to kick things off, I first want to talk about the vehicle. So I have a 1996 Jeep Cherokee that I inherited thanks to my mom and her husband David. So one of the things that you need to take into consideration when it comes to the trailer itself is what towing capacity does your vehicle actually support. In this vehicle's case, it supports a weight of about 2,000 pounds, but that's got to be fully loaded, and that includes any items that you would be carrying in the vehicle as well. So that was a key decision and the reason for evaluating the teardrop. So the teardrops are historically known for being a very light option. The other thing that I had really kind of considered was the pop-up camper as well, but there were a couple of reasons why I decided not to go that route, and I'll get into that in a minute. But and then a third option I had really considered was taking a look at the rooftop tents that you see in a lot of the overland expeditionary type of camping. So one of the primary reasons that really got me started on this whole thing was I found that I was wasting a ton of time loading up the vehicle, preparing for whatever camping trip that I was doing, and I was spending probably a good hour and maybe even more than that just, loading up boxes, getting it onto the Jeep, then driving wherever I was going to go to, and then having to unload it. And then I would spend another hour setting up camp, setting up the tent, blowing up any mattress pads, rolling out the sleeping pad, tying everything down, setting up an awning, and then, going and finally getting the kitchen set up. So I was spending a ton of time just in setup. And really what I wanted to do was, find a way to make that better. Not only that, but it really wasn't that comfortable. So the tent is obviously not a temperature controlled environment, and even the sleeping pads, although they've gotten a lot better over the years, they it's a pad, right? It's not an actual bed. So that really led me to doing this research about what was out there as far as options go. Now, for a number of different reasons, I decided to go with the teardrop trailer, and really I wanted to be able to take whatever I was going to be using off-road. So, and RVs, fifth wheels, things like that, just forget the fact that I can't even tow that type of weight, but they're really not made for off-roading either. There are a bunch of different manufacturers out there. I evaluated Moby One, makes a really good off-road teardrop. The other one I came across was SoCal Teardrops, and then ultimately I decided on what we're going to take a look at today, which is the little guy. So this particular model is the little guy Overland, and it's only 5 feet wide. So anyway, the Moby ones and the SoCal Teardrops were excellent vehicles, and I would never steer anyone away from that. I ran into they're just costly is basically what it boils down to. And if you can afford it, then more power to you. I think the option that I looked at, fully loaded, turned out to be about $38,000, which sounds like a lot of money, but when you look at distributing that over a 15 or a 20-year loan, it actually becomes somewhat reasonable. One thing that I had found one used online that I was trying to close on, but ultimately didn't end up being able to get the financing for it used. So that's another consideration is, these vehicles are not typical. They're not typical when it comes to being able to find them used and get financing for them, because they're hard to evaluate what their actual value is on what they call the NADA. So in any case, because of the size and because of the weight, you can do a lot more with these teardrops. So these are highly recommended for being able to get back to, in my case, I wanted to be able to go fishing or, take it on forest roads, fire roads, you know, whatever else. I'm not going to be doing any serious rock crawling or anything like that. However, there are options for people that want to do that. So, and we'll get into that in probably some later videos. So with all that being said, I want to do a quick walk around, give you an introduction to the trailer itself, and then as we start talking through it, I'll tell you about you know, some of the capabilities, not just for what you get, but also, you know, why this thing is able to, you know, be taken off-road. So with that being said, let's kick this thing off. All right, so what we're looking at here is the Little Guy. Oh, excuse me. Little Guy was the previous manufacturer of these teardrops. They actually split off, and the company now is called NuCamp. So NuCamp is actually who makes these, you know, moving forward. So this particular model is called the NuCamp Tag trailer, and I took a look at a few different options, but ultimately I came down to this one for a number of different reasons. Number one, these are actually mass produced, so they're pretty easy to find. You can get them, you know, there's no waiting time. So some of the other trailers that I had looked at were Moby One at SoCal, Oregon Trailer, and really, although I liked all of those options, there was a waiting list from anywhere from 3 months to a year, and right now it's December. I didn't want to wait, you know, put a down payment, spend that kind of money, only to get the trailer in December of 2018, so, and not be able to do any camping over this spring or summer. So there are definitely differences between the construction of all those different trailers, but this one was going to suit my needs. I'm not doing any rock crawling or anything like that. I will say I'm going to be very interested to see how these things do on high clearance 4x4 Jeep roads. So, which brings us to our first point. So you'll notice that, you know, again, going back to my Jeep, right? I invested some money in order to make this Jeep off-road worthy. I put a 4.5-inch lift on it, which means I want the trailer to be able to make it back to the same places. So when you take a look at this, the clearance of both the trailer and the Jeep are pretty similar. One of the things that I plan on doing pretty quickly is getting rid of the spare tire, because obviously it does have issues, you know, creates a situation where if you hit a rock or something like that, you could potentially puncture the spare tire. So I would be losing a spare, but at the end of the day, if I had to leave the trailer somewhere, that would be acceptable in my situation and scenario. So now, one of the things that makes the Outback edition of this tag different than the regular edition is the tires themselves. So notice that you've got the Nubby off-road mud tires that should do, you know, pretty decent, at least when it comes to some of those fire roads and things like that. It's obviously not the same tire as what I have on the Jeep, but that's okay. So some of the things that I really like about this trailer are it's got a ton of windows. So you'll notice it's got a window here from the inside, which we'll get to in a minute. It creates the illusion that there's a lot more space in this thing, which is important because these things are small. So you'll notice that there's also a window in the door. There's a window on the front, and really tons of light. Gives it a lot more open and airy feel, and that's one of the things I really like about this model. Some of the other models I took a look at, you know, they didn't have the windows. So now, with that being said, some of the other models probably have a sturdier frame because they don't have the windows. And then what you'll notice in the case of the most of those trailers is in place of the window, they'll have the ability to, you know, mount things to the side of the trailer, such as outdoor showers, additional propane tanks, things of that nature. Even I've seen some with the ability to mount a sink or tables or whatever else to the exterior on the side. So you can't do that with this one. And something else to note about this particular model is the framing on this is actually steel construction, and the exterior is fiberglass, not MDF or wood or any of the rest of that. So this is actually, the plus side of that is this is a lighter trailer. The downside is I'm not sure about just how sturdy from a construction standpoint this thing's really going to be. So I'll definitely be keeping an eye on that. So some of the other things to note and talk about are this little outside storage box. This is where you've got, you know, your propane, your batteries underneath there, and then those blocks are just to level the trailer out. So in case we're on uneven ground, they've got some space here to be able to put some smaller boxes, but it is limited. I will tell you, it's probably about I'll call it 1 by 1 foot area where you could put some storage on there. I did decide to go with the Generac 2000 watt generator. And the reason for that is I can hook the generator up to the shore power, and then that enables me to use the 110 outlets throughout the entire vehicle. So that was a new concept for me. I'm still new to this whole RV thing, so I didn't realize that the 110 outlets didn't run off the battery. So the only way the 110 outlets would work is if you were actually connected to shore power, or if you have the generator. So having the generator gives me the option to be able to run the 110 power for appliances or laptops or, you know, whatever else you would use throughout your normal household power. The 12 volt outlets are the ones that are the cigarette lighter adapter. You know, you could still plug stuff into it and get that use out of it. In that case, it would be running off the battery, and you just have to pay attention to how much power you're really using so that you don't drain the battery completely and end up with no power to your trailer. So I'm gonna take a pause here for a second and open the trailer up, and we'll take a look at the inside. All right, so let's take a look at the inside here. As we come up here, one of the things I'm going to show you immediately is, remember that window I was talking about earlier, right? So let's clip this thing open. So this window is actually kind of cool. Right now it's in privacy mode, so you can't see in or out. All you do is just turn the thing, and hey, look at that. You can see out the window. Remember, I talked about, I love the amount of light that's in here. So you've got the one window on either side, which you can't see right now in the video, but you've got two windows on either side, and you also have a door on the other side as well, which, you know, this is a queen size bed on the inside here, so you could comfortably fit 2 adults. And it's kind of nice having the ability to enter from either side so that way you're not crawling over the top of one another. This thing has a headboard in it, and then notice again one of the other windows. So big window. So as you're sitting here enjoying your time, remember the whole reason I bought this thing was to be able to get out and enjoy the outdoors. So, well, what a way to enjoy the view, right? So these windows do open. Some of the things that I really like about it are there's actually, and this particular model I'm going to show you on this window just because it's easier to see, but on this particular manufacturer, they're pretty brilliant in the way that they created these window coverings. So you've got 2 options on these windows. You can either pull down for a screen, and then these windows open, right? So I could open the window, keep the screen down to keep all the bugs and everything else in, but still get all that circulation from the air. So the other option here is you can pull up for a privacy shade, and it's all integrated. So most of the other trailers that I took a look at, they had, you know, like curtain rods, and you could open and close the curtain, and that was about it. So I think NuCamp, and really they got this from Little Guy, was really creative, and I like what they did with these window covers. And then if you don't want anything, you just lift the tab, and there you go. If I wanted to open the window, all that would be required is just moving these levers. I'm not going to do it right now for the purpose of this video, but move the levers, push the window out, tighten these little thumb screws down, and there you go. So some of the things that I think are a little bit excessive, or at least I'm actually changing my mind on, are, the entertainment system. So this is a radio, DVD player combined. And you'll notice this thing has speakers in the ceiling as well as the fantastic fan, so which I'll talk about in a minute. But the radio, I thought originally, I want to be outdoors. I want to be camping. The last thing I want is, all these electronics and everything else distracting me from enjoying the outdoors. Same thing with the TV, right? I don't want to go camping and only to, go spend my time watching DVDs or anything else. But I changed my mind, and here's the reason why. Originally, my original intent for this trailer was to take it off-road, to go, back to these fishing holes and live comfortably and not save time, to save time, that I was losing setting up camp, right? Which I talked about earlier. Now I'm realizing I can use this thing to go cross country also and check off some of the states that I haven't been to yet. So I'm going to plan to make a number of trips, not just off-road, going to these camping spots and fishing, but I'm actually going to use it to do some cross-country travel. And in that case, I think the radio and the TV actually make sense. So I'm glad that I have them. I may do some things with them, depending on, what I decide, which direction I decide to go. And I'll talk about that right now, actually. So obviously you guys have been staring at the air conditioning unit. That's one of the really nice options with this trailer. It comes with the trailer. It's not a additional, pay for option. So on the days where, let's say I'm going down to Arizona and it's 105, 110 degrees, I have the ability to run this thing and still stay comfortable. So one thing I will caution folks on is the AC only runs either if you're on shore power or if you have the generator like I do and you connect the generator up to to emulate shore power. So I did run it just to make sure that the generator wouldn't trip it, and that this was drawing too much amperage, and it ran with no issues. I think a generator was running about 20%. So you've got cabinets too, but one thing I will tell you that I learned, these cabinets are very, very limited in space. So if you look at my hand, it's about the depth of my hand. So basically you can put, smaller items in there. In this one, I've got a space heater, which I'll talk about in a minute. And in this one, I was only able to really put some of my winter clothes, like my scarf, my gloves, a beanie. It would actually be hard to even fit, things like pants and t-shirts and stuff like that. You'd have to be creative in how you fold them in order to get them to fit. So going back to the electric heater, one of the things that I learned here was the electric heater is nice, but it draws so much power that it's actually not really realistic for heating the camper. So one of the things with this particular model, it did not come with a furnace or electric heater or anything like that. So I had to be creative. I was hoping I would be able to use this heater in order to heat the space and run it off of the generator power. So it would just plug in regular, it's got a regular 110 power cord. It would plug into the outlet here. That outlet is connected to the generator, and there you go. I'll say it's totally inefficient. So I tried running it last night just to figure out what that was going to do. And basically what I discovered was I could really only run this one heater off that generator for about 4 hours before I ran out of fuel. So imagine trying to sleep at night, and next thing you know, 4 hours later, you're having to get out. It's 20 degrees outside. Now I got to go pour gas into the generator again just to keep this thing running. It's really not realistic. So the workaround for me is going to be I'm going to use the propane heaters. That way I don't have to worry about power. So, and the propane heaters I can still connect to the onboard gas that's on the tongue of the trailer. So anyway, so this is the inside. Like I said, queen size bed. Some of the features that I missed here were the Fantastic Fan. So that's a 14-inch Fantastic Fan. Really awesome, does a great job of circulating air. I won't necessarily be circulating a lot of air on this upcoming trip just because I need heat, not cold air. So I can still prop this thing open in order to get circulation. Since I'm going to be using a propane heater, I don't want all the gases and everything else to stay trapped inside. So I will be cracking that open and getting some circulation going. So one of the other things to note about this fan is, in addition to taking air and pushing it out of the trailer, you can actually suck air from the outside in as well, which is kind of a useful feature. All the reviews I've read on these particular fans are great. You know, some of the other fans are knockoffs. They don't do a very good job. They don't seal well, or they don't push enough air out. So I'm really happy with the fact that these things come with them. And then obviously you see the speakers as well. The speakers are integrated into the radio and stereo that you see on the far end. I haven't tested it out yet, so I'm not sure about the sound quality, but it is, you know, kind of a nice feature to know that it's already integrated and you don't really have to do any tricks. Some of the other things are the reading lights. So you can run the reading lights in two different modes. The first mode is blue. The reason they use blue lights is because mosquitoes and bugs are not attracted to the color blue. So something I learned in my research, if you hit the button twice, or maybe it's if you hold the button down, there we go. Still learning. So if you hold the button down, you get your traditional white reading light if the blue bugs you for reading or whatever else. So also, you've got a couple different lights in here as well. You'll notice there's an accent light. So if I just turn that on, if you come back here, there's an LED strip on the back of this thing. It creates some ambient light. So it comes up the wall, and then the wall really kind of glows and creates a nice effect from a lighting perspective. So instead of, you know, the entire thing being lit up like a Christmas tree, you have just enough light to be comfortable, in my opinion. And then one of the other switches you'll notice here is the porch light. So the porch light are these LED lights. So at nighttime, you can't really see now, but at nighttime, it lights this the whole side up. But I actually like the lighting effect that it creates because it doesn't put off so much light that you're going to annoy your camping neighbors, but it lights it up enough to know, you know, where the wheel well is, and then really where your camper is. So everything on this vehicle is LED, which is awesome because it saves a ton of energy, which you absolutely need because you're running your entire system off the 12-volt battery. So we're going to walk around to the rear here, and I'm going to show you the kitchen. So the kitchen is what makes these teardrops infamous, or it is definitely what they're known for. So everything's already integrated. Remember what I was talking about earlier about having to set up the campsite, you know, your kitchen and everything else, right? Well, here I don't have to worry about it. I've already got a sink. So I don't have to worry about a bucket or any of the rest of that. I can wash all my dishes or prepare food or, you know, whatever I want to. I've got the integrated 2-burner system. I will tell you, these burners are really, really close. So just know if you're looking at one of these and you're considering buying one of these, just realize that these things are going to take a very specific pan. I can't see any situation where you're going to be able to use both burners at the same time, to be honest. But again, it's integrated. You don't have to worry about it. It's already connected to the propane at the front of the tongue of the trailer. So all you got to do is just light it, which brings me to my next point. There's no ignition system on this thing, so you do need a lighter. Keep that in mind. That's why I have these lighters just stored away here, right? So just something to keep in mind. It'd be You'd be very, very sorry to get out to the campsite only to find out that, oh, hey, I have no way of lighting this thing. Most people are going to have lighters on them for campfires or anything else. It's got these integrated hooks for storing utensils and things like that. I will say I'm not real happy about where they mounted these, just because if you'll notice, again, space considerations, right? This is probably only about 10 inches from where the hook is to the counter height, and that means all of your normal spatulas, spoons, things like that are not going to fit on this. So I plan to move this up, and I'll probably leave everything else where it's at. So notice I've got, my little spice wheel that I got from Anna, thank you, for Christmas. This is where you would keep all your spices, cooking, seasoning, oil, things like that, right? So I'll probably leave this where it's at. This is a good picture of what I was talking about earlier. This is the 12 volt. That's where I'm saying the cigarette lighter, outlet type. So this has power all the time. As long as your battery is charged, you can draw power out of this all day long. The 110 outlet does not have power. The only way these get power is if you're on shore power or you've got your generator connected. Just something worth noting. So, and then as we come down here, you'll see this fridge, which I'm probably not going to be able to open one-handed. Oh, hey, I got it. All right. So this fridge is on 12 volt. See? There's the 12 volt power. So basically, again, going back to the whole concept of, the cigarette lighter type situation, right? This fridge will work right now without being connected to shore power. If we open this sucker up, you'll notice that it's got, an okay amount of storage. You'd be able to probably put about a weekend's worth of food in here, and you're good to go. So I've got my little egg case there so that I don't break any eggshells on the inside of this thing. I will tell you, I haven't used the fridge yet. Most of the reviews that I heard were saying that it takes some time in order to cool down. It's not one of those that, it's going to be ready in 30 minutes. I think some of the reviews I saw said it could take up to 4 hours. So you'll want to take that into consideration if you're planning on going camping and you want this thing to be at a certain temperature. I would recommend turning it on before you drive out to whatever situation or to wherever area you're going to. Oh, the other thing that's cool about this fridge is this fridge is portable. So let's say, you drive out to a campsite and you want to leave your trailer at the campsite itself or an RV park or what have you, but you still want to be able to take this thing out to the lake or wherever you're going to go fishing. You would just unplug this. The handles are right here. I haven't attached them, but I will be at some point. I purposefully did not attach them because it prevents from sliding the thing in and out. So, but you would attach the handles. I could throw this in the back of the Jeep, take it out to whatever location I wanted to, and I'm fine. I got no issues, right? So, really nice option. Basically turns this thing into an ice chest for all intents and purposes. So, well, I think I've done plenty of talking. This is my second walk around of this trailer. I plan to do many more videos, and I'm hoping that some of the things that I learn, my goal is two things. Be able to share my newly found experiences, be able to teach some folks. I expect to learn a lot, the hard way, they say. But the good news is, this will give me the ability to unplug, get away from work, not be, spending my weekends. I'm hoping this will sort of force me into being able to go out and explore, which is what this whole thing's all about. I've got 17 states that I have not been to yet, so I plan to take this on as many of them as I can, time permitting. I also plan during the spring and summer to take this thing out fishing. This thing should be pretty capable of taking me off-road, which is not something you would get in a traditional trailer or fifth wheel or any of the rest of that. I'm looking forward to it. I hope you guys get to enjoy the videos as much as I get to enjoy trying to, figure things out and expanding my exploration. So thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you at the next video.